2 жанып кетті қайтадан. Сізде 500 теңге бар ма? Бастау үшін 500 теңге және телефон болса болғаны. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 түймесі басыңыз. Бум! 144 000 теңге. Рахмет тауық. Ресми Chicken Road қолданбасы. А сіз мұны күні бойы, күн сайын жасай аласыз, өйткені ойын сізді 200 000 теңгеге дейінгі бонуспен плюс 75 тегін айналдырумен қарсы алады. Төмендегі сілтеме арқылы оларды қазір талап етіңіз. Міне бітті. Мен саған көрсеттім. Енді сіз не істеу керектігін білесіз.
15, 25, 50 years of our life. Wow. And how we give love to ourselves and how we give love to others. And so I was thinking, do you have a core memory or an experience with your family from childhood that kind of embodies the feeling you have about them now, or that keeps you tied close to them?
I'd say sort of more than a memory is just a feeling that I could say all of my brothers and I had, was that because our dad's a comedian, his job only ever existed once we had gone to bed, and our mum worked from home. She was a photographer. So to us as kids, our parents didn't really work. They just were always home. So we had this amazing foundation where no matter any time of the day, either mum or dad would be at the house. And we felt so kind of solid as a family, which is why I kind of have this dream of one day having kids and putting my work to bed and just kind of being there as a dad. Because I really admire how my dad was around. You know, being a comedian is a very, very volatile job. The highs and lows are so extreme, and as kids we never saw that. The only version of my dad I ever saw was the happy dad, let's go to the park. We used to play this game called Golf Goals, where we would go down to the park, there's like this big blue metal goal, and we would just fire golf balls into that goal every day, and he would give us 10p every time a ball went in the goal, and that was kind of the foundation of our golf and all that sort of stuff. So for me, broader than a core memory was the idea of always feeling connected and safe within my family unit. And I think a large portion of that is that my mum and dad have always been such a solid team, and they've always been there for us.
Yeah, wow. Have they, as you've grown older, have they kind of opened up about some of the challenges that they were going through that they obviously didn't show you and your family when you were kids? Because I can imagine, we always talk about this, right? Like being a comedian is extremely difficult because you're making everyone else laugh. At the same time, it's a career path that, like you said, is completely volatile.
Sure.
Have they opened up as time's gone on, and how has that felt when you've gone from like seeing your parents always being happy to being like, oh wait, there was all this other stuff going on?
Absolutely they have. And it's not even sometimes things that they've told us, it's just things that we've grown up to recognise. As a young kid, you know, you're not looking to how's my mum feeling, how's my dad feeling. And now as an older person, you know, those are things I care about. I want to call my mum because I know it will brighten her day. So that's all part of growing up, I guess. So seeing the way in which my dad's job affects him or my dad's job affects my mum is something we've all sort of come to terms with, and he's amazing at it. I mean, to be honest, I say affect, it doesn't really affect anyone. He's so good at handling it, which is a lot of why I feel like I am the way I am. For example, The Crowded Room's come out, the critics absolutely hated it. They thought it was the worst thing they've ever seen, and it doesn't really upset me. And I think a large part of my feeling towards that has come from my dad being able to do a gig, the gig not going well, him brushing it off his shoulder and just right onto the next one.
Yeah, wow. And first of all, I want to point that out as well. So I've been watching The Crowded Room.
Right.
And me and my wife have been watching it together, and we're actually really enjoying it.
Good, thank you.
So like, we're actually loving it because I love a show that has mystery.
Sure.
That's trying to like get me to figure it out and get me to think about it. I'm kind of confused, and I love stuff like that. Like I'm a massive Christopher Nolan fan.
Yeah, absolutely.
So all my favorite movies are Nolan movies, and the reason why I love them is because I have no idea what's going on.
Sure.
And that's
and you got to figure it out.
And you got to figure it out. And I love puzzles, and I love escape rooms, and I love anything
an escape room.
Yeah, I love anything that's got me thinking, what is going on here, and why can't I figure it out?
Mate, do you know what you should watch? I admittedly watch it to go to sleep if I'm ever feeling stressed or like overstimulated. I watch this guy called Chris Ramsey. He's like a YouTube guy. He's a magician, but I just watch him solve puzzles. He like buys these Japanese like handcrafted puzzle boxes, and he just solves them. And I've started buying them, and they come to the house, and you sit down for 4 hours, put it down, pick it up, and try and solve this puzzle. And it's amazing.
Are you any good at them?
No, I'm terrible at them, mate. I'm absolutely terrible. I've had an unsolved Rubik's Cube since I was like 11. But yeah, so I watch his videos because there's just something about like the sound of the wood. I'm a carpenter, so I love like craftsmanship and that sort of stuff. So I love the way that these pieces are put together. So watching him solve the puzzles, I find so relaxing.
Yeah, I think for so many of us, you know, getting bad reviews, perceptions, people talking about us, whatever that may be, whatever scale we live at, can actually affect us.
Sure.
And you saying that actually seeing your dad, seeing him shrug it off and seeing him move on actually really helped him. Do you think that you've been able to create a bit more of a skill around that now, or is it something that happens naturally for you? Because I'm guessing that there's a lot of people who are listening and watching going, Tom, that's pretty amazing that you can do that at your scale and your level. But, you know, I'm still affected by that. Or I really struggle when my mate says something. Like, I know the number one thing I hear is like, most people don't chase their dreams because they're scared of what their mates will say, let alone what the world will say.
Yeah,
like I had this I was flying back last night, as I was telling you. So I was on a plane from DC to London last night. And the air hostess, she was wonderful. Her name was Jeanette. She said to me, she was like, Jay, I really want to start a YouTube channel, but you know, you just got to block out what your friends are going to say, right? And she was just worried about it. So that it's a very real thing. So I guess, have you kind of figured out a little formula for it? Or is it just natural because you saw your dad and it's become easier that way?
I think it's a little bit of both, really. You know, I think it's something you definitely get better at. I'm really lucky that I have an incredibly strong group of friends. Like, one of my best mates just called me up earlier to say he'd seen the 5th episode, and he's like, I know what happens in the show and I'm still loving it. The people I'm watching it with have no idea what's going on, but they can't wait for the next one.
Yeah.
So, you know, I really, really hold high the opinions of people that I really care about. I'm also really lucky to have an amazing group of fans who are so supportive. They are diehard, they are there day one, and that makes me feel really good. But I do think a lot of my lessons in life have come from my dad and the ways that he can deal with things that he hasn't done very well in the past, that he's passed on to me. And I live by this really. I don't actually know if Christian Bale did say this, but I think
love
he
Christian
did.
Bale,
I
so
love Christian
we'll
Bale.
Say he said
I
it. Yeah,
love Christian
we'll say
Bale.
he said it. Yeah.
But I think the quote is, if you have a problem with me, text me. And if you don't have my number, you don't know me well enough to have a problem with me.
That is so good.
And I think that is such a great piece of advice, because as a celebrity, you live on this stage, you live out there, you kind of give out a version of yourself that you want people to see. Mm-hmm. And that can be the version of yourself that they can have a problem with or they can love. And there is I feel like I'm quite authentic in my public persona, but I just try to really care about what my family thinks, what my friends think, what the people in my local community think. I live in Kingston. I know everyone that lives there. I can't walk 5 feet without bumping into one of my mum's friends. So it's something I've been working on. I try my best to not let that stuff affect me. It does.
Yeah, of course.
I'm not cold-hearted or anything like that. It does affect me, but I just try to move on and focus on the positives.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. What was did you ever see your dad deal with everything and you thought, wow, that was incredible? Like, was there anything specific that you remember that, like, seeing him like tackle something and you thought, wow, that really impressed me, even if it was something really small in hindsight?
I think the thing I admire most about my dad is his resilience. You know, he's someone who has had an incredibly successful career in his earlier life, and then later in life his career sort of plateaued and he struggled, and he's never stopped. He's never given up. He's still gigging to this day. He's still writing books. He has a Patreon. He has a podcast. He's constantly grafting to get to where he wants to be. And I think being a young kid and seeing your dad continually working as hard as he can to kind of put his best foot forward, for me, has been a huge drive for my work ethic. I'll give it 100% or I'll give it nothing. And I think a lot of that has come from my dad and seeing him deal with that. The funny thing about my dad is, you talk about doing a bad gig. I must have seen him 20 times. I've never seen him do a bad gig. He always seems to absolutely rip it. But maybe that's just because we're in the audience. But no, I owe a lot to my dad, and a lot of the teachings are things he's told me and things I've just witnessed him do.
Yeah. And was there ever a piece of feedback or a rumor or something you saw that did affect you, where you actually thought, well, or at least made you stop and go, God, I'm trying to see the positives, but this one's tough. Like this actually made me have to pause and figure it out.
Something that did really upset me, I was in New York, I was shooting the crowded room, and I was having a really hard time with the job just because of how taxing it was, the emotional capacity that I was having to get to every day. And I decided to delete my Instagram because I just felt like I was so addicted to